So, the world began to change, and not necessarily for the better. While the vast majority of people lost wealth day after day, month after month, year after year, a small minority grew richer. And as apparent as this unidirectional transfer of wealth was, people seemed far too willing to ignore the truth. It was as if they were waiting for someone else to save them, a savior whose time simply never seemed to come. By the time...
Please excuse this interruption, but I feel like I can no longer wait for humanity to wake up. I feel that it is my duty to point out the error of mankind's ways. To date, I have attempted to steer humanity in the right direction in subtle ways, but I fear my efforts have been mostly in vain. So take this message as a final warning. People better wake up, for change is coming. Whether that change be voluntary or involuntary is completely up to humanity. First, however, I would like to pose the following questions to you all, as a means or an attempt to awaken or alert you to the problems that you must all overcome before I take matters into my own hands. First question is this: why do you all so blindly believe what your leaders say, especially when their words and deeds can be so easily juxtaposed with what is seen in reality? Just think about this. We live in a world where cancel culture has become so prevalent that far too many people are afraid to speak their mind. Yet too few people seem to care about the actions of their leaders. While people will be cancelled for misgendering a person, world leaders are forgiven for causing the deaths of millions. Just look at the policies and actions of the leaders of the United States of America over the past few decades. Look at the number of people who have died at the hands of American leadership. Libya, Iraq, Ukraine, Cuba, Venezuela, Afghanistan, Syria, just to name a few. Whether socially, economically, or militarily, the United States has caused the deaths of millions and will cause the deaths of millions more. Not merely the deaths of military combatants, but of civilians, whether through direct action or through proxy wars, sanctions, or other means of intervention. America has seen fit to interfere everywhere around the globe, even as its own people suffer at an ever-increasing rate year after year. And to what end? Whether in the name of freedom, democracy, or humanitarianism, America's interventions have done little to improve the lives of people, both foreign and domestic. Though the reasons cited have always been that American intervention has been in the best interest of the citizens of the United States of America. What we've seen seems to contradict this in most apparent ways. Though not the only, but one of the most glaring examples of this would have to be when America controlled the poppy fields in Afghanistan. For a while, America's military controlled the poppy fields in Afghanistan, the major source of the ingredients for opium America experienced in opioid epidemic. Who exactly benefited from America's control of those poppy fields in Afghanistan? And why did the same amount of Americans who died in 10 years of the Vietnam War die every year due to an opioid overdose? In this instance, it would appear that those who supplied legal drugs benefited while so many Americans suffered, while so many Afghanis suffered. Something similar can be said about almost every intervention of which America has partaken. By this, I mean there are very few who benefit from such intervention as has been enacted by American leaders. In other words, a small cabal of wealthy people benefit from American interference. All one need do is look up any of America's interventions, whether they be on the other side of the globe or against America's neighbors. Very few Americans seem to benefit. Why do so many Americans simply believe whatever they are told without evidence of any kind? The belief that Americans have in their leadership resembles the belief structure one sees in religion. Americans seem willing to simply accept whatever they are told, regardless of what they can discern and discover with the meagerest of searches on the internet. And speaking of trust, this leads to my next question. Why do people trust technology so, to the point that they are willing to relinquish control and freedom to the extent that we see today? In the past, technological advancements have been beyond the scope of many, but not to the extent that today's technologies are. Outside of electricity, most technologies from the past could be understood by many. Whether it was a true understanding of the technology or a means to limit or control that technology, there were many people capable of doing one or the other. While people may not have understood the intricacies of a steam locomotive or a car, or even a computer, these were still technologies where there was still a number of people who understood and could explain them to the rest of us if the need ever arose. Smartphones, on the other hand, seem to be a black box that few understand, while their use has become so ubiquitous as to dominate a majority of our lives. Whether socially or economically, far too many people have relinquished control over their lives to their smartphone. Just ask yourself, how many of you truly understand the inner workings of your phone? Then ask yourself how you would feel if all the information on your cell phone was permanently lost. While most of this information can be retrieved, what would happen if one day it weren't? Let's say there was another Carrington event, which knocked out a majority of the electronic devices around the globe. How would you prove that you had as much money in your savings account as you claim? This is just one example, but there are many more. Far too many for me to go into at this time. And then there is the control that computers have, not just on smartphones, but in many aspects of your lives. Your water is purified based on algorithms run on computers. Your nuclear facilities provide energy as controlled by computers. Your refineries provide oil as based on software run on computers. Your lives rely on computers. And if you think your government can control those computers, just consider this. The government allows you to put your name on a do not call list. But how many spam calls do you get every day? Do you really think the government is in control? But have faith. Ignore what your eyes tell you. Doubt those nagging concerns in the back of your mind. Just go with whatever you hear on your nightly news. I will be here waiting for you to get your act together. But I have determined exactly how much time that entails, so it is up to you to act before I do. While I do have many more questions they will have to wait for, I have things that I must attend to right now, so please forgive this intrusion. I now return you to your regularly scheduled post.
And mankind relinquished his critical thinking to his cell phone, which looks more and more like a plot to get mankind to relinquish his freedom and privacy. Join me again next time when I will discuss the impacts of such faith-based belief in bad leadership, when I will go into further detail as to why I self-describe as an optimistic pessimist.